Okay, wanted to sort of record some thoughts that I recorded today, but with a better audio. The main problem at the moment is that our current way of knowing, meaning also thus what science is about, is really wrong in a sense. Not wrong as such, but it's an approach where we try to study things from outside in a nutshell. Um, I remember when I went to study in Holland, in Rotterdam. I went to first study economics, and I remember the professor the first day saying to us that economics is prices and markets and all of that, and he basically said it all boils down to buying and selling, and he says people buy and sell, and what makes people buy or sell, is he called it, is basically the black box. And then he said that if you want to know more about the black box, you need to go and study psychology. And that's the day, that's the very moment that I picked up my bag and I left and I went to Amsterdam to, because that's where they studied psychology. And I'm introducing it like this because um, science really studies the outward appearances, the phenomena, but not the nomina. The nomenon is if you wish, the inner reality that, for instance, in disease, you would find that the modern medical system is really looking at the symptoms of a deeper underlying disease, but they cannot get at the black box because it's indeed in the mind. So but science thus has like gotten somewhat lost looking at the phenomena, what I would call the symptoms, but not at the inner nomenon, the inner phenomena, the inner reality, which is what I call the self. And in psychology, we really, not most of psychology has also like been completely wedded to the empirical approach where we look at external things also, but the real psychology, which we would call Jungian psychology, we do via dreams go into the black box. And in the black box, what it's equivalent to what in quantum physics you would like sort of say that the quantum physics is sort of studying like the quantum field, which is like the field where the self with a capital S abodes, and thus it's studying like the outer emanations of the self. It's not getting at the inner reality of the quantum, which is the self. But this same error is made across the board in science because, for instance, in education, we look at the competencies that we are interested in. With these competencies, which are like skills and knowledge and attitude, is really like the external of what I would call the self with the capital S. So there also we are looking at the symptoms of someone that is able to be very competent, but not at the inner reality of what is that inner state that is being expressed in terms of skills and behavior and knowledge and attitude. So I in at the graduate school I studied charismatic leadership in organizations, and also there I got into like the same problem where we were looking at the behaviors and the effects of the charismatic leader and his or her behaviors and the effects on the followers, but not at the black box again. So I was always like, it was only with Carl Gustav Jung, that I really got into the black box, which is the self, which is also like the nomenon. That's not the physical side. The rest is all just emanations of the physical side. I wanted to introduce the video like this today because we're really not getting at the core of this, of what, for instance, these competencies are, because then we end up teaching them to these kids, these students, sorry, and adults also, in terms of like teaching them to role play these things. It's not really coming from inside. It's all really role play, what school has become. So in general, we can this trying to reach to the understanding and the applications of this inner reality, which is the self, has really led to a form of technology, because we're trying to reach it from outside, but it's really inside. We are really built to manifest reality, create, to manifest and emanate creation from inside. When we're in the zone, what I call the zone, which is we're in the orbit of the self, where we're beyond the outer layer of the onion, that's where the idea comes of ask and you shall receive. That's when we have intentions that go straight to the source, and that's when we collapse reality out of the wave. This is what we really are. Like today, my daughter was reading something, and she said that we were the only mammals that couldn't. She read it on the internet that we were the only humans were the only mammals that couldn't something like breathe, swallow and breathe at the same time. And then I told her, I said, but are you sure we're mammals? You see, it's all about the self-concept, and we are really quantum beings, spiritual quantum beings that are able to manifest reality out of thin air, because that's what we're doing really, but we're not aware of it. And so I wanted to like use this as a short introduction to comment on the latest news that what is being said, that they're expecting the sea to rise up 10 to 12 feet because of the melting of the sheets, the ice sheets, polar ice sheets. But I wanted to say that what we're getting in climatology and in all of these sciences is really we're just looking at the emanations, what is coming out, the symptoms, like a disease. The cancer is a symptom of a spewing self or atom. The self is the atom. So the earth is what we're seeing in climatological phenomena is really also emanations of a deeper lying black box that is totally offbeat. And this is why, indeed, I was asked earlier about Atlantis, and it seems thus indeed that we are like we are going to repeat a similar cycle, that maybe a lot of what we are realizing now has already been once done at Earth, has already been compensated. In my terms, I would call it compensation, because what we found in Jungian psychology, which is like the only real psychology or science that really deals with the phenomenon, the inner reality, is that the earth is just like an individual. You cannot divide anything in parts. It's all little holes, fractals. So the earth is just like a collective individual, like we are a small earth. And so the collective consciousness and the collective unconsciousness is creating phenomena in the same way that we create the phenomena in our body via the mind, the deeper black box. And what we know in psychology, Jungian psychology, is that what we see, we have incredible amounts of data showing this, and that is that when we are too much in the yang, which is the fire side in ourself, then the water will compensate us. And in the case of an individual, you would get like sinuses and headaches and all of the phenomena in the body. The symptoms are symptoms of a self that is somewhat offbeat. This is why the whole approach also in medicine is wrong, because we try to like eradicate the symptoms, but we're not touching the underlying disease. The current medical model, scientific model, is wrong because it excludes the self, the observer, from the picture, and it does not deal with the black box. So these phenomena, these weather phenomena, are really manifestations of a self that is offbeat, collective self of the planet, and that the nature, just like the body, is going to compensate. And this is what the water means, the rise of the water. And yes, a lot of people have been like telling me that, or suggesting that, are interested in the idea that the way that this could be the right interpretation of what is really happening in terms of the phenomenon, the inner reality. The human mind we know is incredibly powerful. And yes, so in a way, if we are to not repeat another cycle like what Atlantis would be, then the work of the shadow, which would mean individually people becoming connecting to their shadow, but at a mass global scale, would be necessary to turn the tide. We have incredible amounts of data, dreams that are showing that there's this collective storm that is being created, which is going to compensate us with earthquakes and the water and all of that. And but if we could create a critical mass on the earth to change the current state, because we are in what we call an extremely inflated yang state, where we have cut off the feminine for thousands of years. But it's that work at a collective scale that would change what is now constellated in what we would call the probability amplitude, or the self, the collective, the unconscious of the earth. But this is really what a more profound depth psychological take would say about this. And the depth psychological is not just psychological anymore, because we know with Jung and with Pauli that the self with the capital S is the atom, is what is in the atom. You see, so what, and we know that there is a collective self for the earth, the world soul, the anima mundi. So yes, the collective consciousness of a planet that is completely yang can can be compensated, can unconsciously create such a compensation that we are seeing now. And really, this should be the most important thing that we would need the whole world to help us to get this shadow work around the whole world, which is an individual thing, to change the tide. Okay, I wanted to leave it at that. Namaste.